Hello everyone, my name is Jordan, also known as X-3. Today I want to show you guys how to create the sand trial. Now this is a very different type of synth. I use it more as an FX, kind of like a one-shot that echoes throughout the whole sound, the whole demo I've kind of made for you guys. Anyways, I'm going to let this play out and then I'm going to show you guys how to create this synth. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to set your BPM down here from 120 down to 100. The next thing I'm going to do is throw in Thor. You can leave in a combinator if you want, but I prefer my patches open and free, kind of like my will. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to attack my first analog oscillator to be a multi-oscillator, so that way we can have more than one sound going into the synth. I'm going to change this from a random to fifth up. And I'll also leave my amount for the entire detune synth all the way up, so we can have a nice clean sound. The next thing I'm going to do is throw up my filter frequency all the way and make sure number 2 is routed. Number 2 is going to be a noise oscillator. You may not think this, but noise on a very low level can actually enhance a lot of the sound's capabilities if you're going for a medium to high synth. So what I'm going to do to eliminate some of the noise is go down to the mixer down here. I'm going to set that to about a quarter of the way. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 25. Just until you can barely hear it. Next, I'm going to take my 1-2 down to about 5. This will lower the volumes of both oscillators going into the mix. The third and final synth we're going to use is a wavetable. For the wavetable, I'm going to set this to square harmonics so we can get a very hollow sound. I'm just going to play this through so that way you can hear what it sounds like. Very nice, very hollow. If we set this to saw or basic analog, it's a very different type of sound. So square harmonics gathers a whole bunch of the different squares and combines them to create a nice sound. Okay, so I'm going to set my 1 and 2 to filter 1 with the frequency all the way up and the resonance about 47 to give it a little bit of more characteristic. For my third and my first, they're going to be routed to filter 2. And I'll also run these two, run this out with that little button. I'm going to set this to a comb filter. Combs are really nice because you can get a certain subsection of the sounds. It kind of creates a whole bunch of peaks, but depending on where the frequency is, it will gather up more harmonics rather than less, depending if you have positive comb or negative. We're going to go for a negative comb since we don't want this to ring out too much. I'm going to set my frequency somewhere around 4.20 kilohertz or 420. I'm going to turn up my res to about a quarter, and for my drive I'm going to throw it up a little bit more, about 75. We're almost done with this synth. The few things we need to do is turn on the shaper, set this to a sine wave, and turn up the drive halfway, or a little bit less than that. I like that. I want to turn on my LFO1. Make sure key sync is turned off so that way it's not affected by the rate of each key we play. So I want to set this to about 1/4, or let's set this about 1/8. Or 3/16 should work fine. I'm going to throw up my keyboard follow all the way and leave it as a sine wave. The delay is pretty important since I'm going to turn it on and set it to synced. and turn on my chorus. I don't mess with any of the dry wet or anything. It's perfectly fine the way it is. Very nice echoes. I want to turn up my attack somewhere around 220 to give it a little bit of lead in so it doesn't start instantly. So that's pretty cool. And we want this to ring out a little bit more, so I'm going to put up my release to 1.6, so that way after I hit a key it will ring out even further. I'm also going to turn up my sustain a little bit so we get this synth a little bit louder. Very nice, very pleasant. For the source down here on the mod bus, we're going to do some a little bit different. I want to turn on my LFO 1. I want to set the amount of this to 68, and it's going to affect my amp pan, so we can get more of a swaying motion. What really tops off this synth is our LFO source 1 on our second bus over here. Now I know you can see these destination 1 and destination 2. The difference between the left and the right is that you can set 2 destinations, but we don't have those quite yet, so I want to turn on my filter 3 to a format filter. Now I want this to be a little bit higher than most filters, is because this is going to be the dominant sound of the whole synth. I want to turn up my gender around 91. I want this to be a little bit more. I want to turn up my envelope all the way, turn it on invert, and throw down my filter envelopes all the way down. Inverted version of this is just flipping all these values the opposite way. So what I'm going to do for my LFO1 source back down here is I'm going to set both values to affect the X and Y of my filter 3. So the first one's going to be X and the second one's going to be Y. The amount is going to be about like 38. You want these to be even just in case the synth goes out of whack. These will stay on time and on sound, and it will just sound better. And that's basically the sound. If you want to tidy up the sound a little bit more, throw on a pulverizer, turn up your squash a bit. You want to set your filter to a high pass since we're removing some harmonics. I'll set my filter frequency to about 120 Hz. I want to turn on my spread and just make sure the amount is affected to about 20%, just a little bit, so we can get more swang into our synth. Now, if you notice, there is a very high pitch ringing. We can remove that with a little harmonical removal. So what I'm going to do is turn on my P1 and my low cut past 30 Hz. Just turn your gain all the way down and the Q all the way up. This is exactly where that peak is hitting. No more peak. I'm going to throw in a maximizer to tidy this all up, and if this sound ever gets even louder, turn down my master volume. I'm going to turn off my limiter, set my release to auto, turn on my soft clip, and set the amount to 127. So that way it doesn't clip over the peaks. It doesn't go over and blow up your sound card. Thanks for joining me on Wonderbar Wednesday, and I will check you guys out tomorrow for Triple Threat Thursday. Have a good one, and peace. Everyone, my name is Jordan, also known as X-3. I want to say thank you guys so much for following me. It really does mean a lot. For Tasteful Tuesday yesterday, I noticed that you guys didn't seem to like that video. So I'll do my best to kind of create some of the better content I have laid out for you guys. I'm doing the best I can at what I know how to do, and I'll be sure to give it to you guys as soon as possible. Thank you guys so much for following me, and I'll check you guys out later. Peace.